When I was 5, my older sister and I shared a bedroom. She was a few years older than me and had her own bunk bed. She slept on the top. On the bottom, instead of another bed, was an enclosed storage area with a dresser made of solid wood. I had my own bed across the room. One day, she and I were sitting on the top of the bed playing with Barbies. There was one particular Ken doll neither of us liked because we thought he was ugly. Bowl haircut, stupid face. So we threw him behind her bed. He landed in the corner against the bed and the wall, face down. Because of the enclosed bed and our short arms at the time, we'd never be able to reach him again and thought it might be a good solution for all his crimes. A while later, we decided to check on him, and he's still face down in the corner, except his head has twisted all the way around, and he's staring up at us. Freaked us out. There was another weird time when she and I decided to crawl under her bed with the dresser where Mom usually stores the vacuum. We found what looked to be a tunnel going into the floor wide open. So strange, because we were on the 3rd floor. It literally looked like a Super Mario tunnel. Thought maybe our eyes were playing tricks on us. We freaked out, ran and told our mom. When we went back under the bed, the tunnel was gone and replaced by a rather boring vacuum. My sister and I would often talk about these stories later on, never denying what happened. She'd say we should have gone down the tunnel, but I'm not so sure. There was another incident. I was 8 or so and was gifted an antique Rainbow Bright doll. It stayed in the family for years without much incident. Then one day, I had a dream. I was walking into my brother's room and I saw the doll lying on his bed. As I got closer, it sprang up and whispered in a small girl's voice, "If you tell anyone about me, I'll kill you." Then it fell limp again. I told everyone as soon as I woke up. And I'm pretty sure that doll ended up in the trash. My sister had a twin doll set, boy and girl, battery operated. They had wires you can insert in the back, and they would talk to each other, saying things like, "Sugar and spice is nice when my sister is beside me," or something like that. They would only say those things when they were connected to each other with the wire. One day, when me and my friends were riding around, my mom called me to go home because she heard one of those dolls talking in the toy box. When we went home, the girl twin doll was talking, asking for her twin brother, or vice versa. I don't remember. We freaked out because, here's the thing, it would only say those certain phrases when they were connected. So I opened up the back to one of the dolls to take out the batteries, and it was still talking, even after I took out 3 of the batteries. It finally stopped when I took out the last one. My friends and I took them out of my mom's house, threw them in the ditch, and took the other doll and brought it to the dump to burn. We put it in a box so it could burn quickly. We left the dump and went back like 15 to 20 minutes later. But the doll wasn't in the box anymore, and the box was only slightly burned on the outside. A few days later, my mom was walking to work and saw the same doll we brought to the dump, sitting upright on the neighbor's logs. This was in the early 90s, and I was around 6. My dad was working an overnight job. We lived in East San Diego, near a canyon. I was already scared knowing that my dad wasn't home, and when I heard the coyotes howling, it upset me, even though I was used to hearing them. I went to my parents' room, and my mom let me sleep in her bed. I had a doll that came with a remote-controlled walker. There were buttons on the remote to make it move back and forward, and to make it laugh. If you look up Hasbro doll with walker, you can see it. The doll was in my room, next door, and we heard it laughing. It continued happening. I don't know for how long or how many times because I was little. But I remember it was freaking my mom out. So she went to get it and stuck it up on the shelf in my closet and shut the bifold doors. The doll started moving back and forth on the shelf, banging against the door, and we could hear it. By this time, I remember being scared, and my mom was trying to stay calm. She went and took the batteries out of the remote, and the walker thingy, it was some sort of glitch, but that freaking doll kept laughing. She finally got up and took the doll, walker, and remote to the outside garbage, and I never saw it again. She told my dad about it in the morning because she was freaked out too. She still tells the story. A lot of weird things went on in that house, and this was just one thing. The place in Rosedale Court. I wish I could walk through that house again. On the morning of her birthday, Lucy's mother woke her up and told her a package had arrived in the mail, and it was addressed to her. The girl hurriedly unwrapped the gift and was horrified at what she found inside. It was the most disgusting old doll she'd ever seen. It was completely bald, and its skin was cracked and caked in dirt. The worst thing of all was its teeth. They were long, pointy, sharp, and beastly. They looked like animal fangs. With a shiver, she took the doll and threw it in a corner. Her mother scolded her, telling her that someone had gone to a lot of trouble to send her this antique doll. Her mother told her she'd better appreciate it. Lucy tried to protest, but her mother would not listen. After much debate, she decided to stuff the antique doll into the little cupboard under the stairs, behind a pile of shoes where she wouldn't have to look at the ugly, evil little thing. It was not until a few nights later, when Lucy was lying in bed, that she heard a noise, a shuffling sound, which went on for about 5 minutes. It was a brief, dragging noise, and finally a scuttling, like light little footsteps, walking very fast. By now, Lucy was shaking in her bed with fear, unable to move. Then she thought she heard a faint, raspy voice whispering quietly from downstairs. Lucy always slept with the door slightly open, and the landing light was on. She was a little scared of the dark. Then, she hears a voice say, "Lucy, I'm on the first step." And then loud, scrabbling again, as whatever was speaking apparently turned tail and returned to its place of hiding. Lucy was so scared that she didn't sleep a wink that night, but laid in fear until the break of dawn, when her mother got her up for school. Lucy tried to explain to her mother what had happened the night before, but she was so tired when her mother passed it off as just a dream. She began to believe that maybe that was true. Back in the 80s, there were these porcelain clown dolls that a lot of people had, usually with one little tear painted under one of the eyes. Anyways, we were around 8 years old at the time. It was summer, and a bunch of us kids were playing outside on the lawn. We set up a little one-man tent with the help of the parents and decided to fill it with books and stuffies and such. Amongst the stuffies was one of those little clown dolls. This one was black and white, with hair that stood up and fanned out like a little feather duster. A few other friends from the neighborhood joined us, and we all decided to play a big game of hide and seek. We scattered in all directions, and whoever counted would count in the tent with the stuffies and books. When it was my turn to count, I sat cross-legged in the tent and noticed that the clown doll was missing. I didn't think much of it, like maybe one of my friends took it to hide with or something like that. I finished counting and went off to find my friends. After finding everyone, I realized the last friend to find was Sarah, and I'm pretty sure she was in a closet. In fact, I knew she was in there because I heard her talking to someone. I thought maybe another person was hiding in there with her, so I was confused because everyone had been found already. Then I heard a scream, and I ran over and whipped the door open. Sarah looked pale. She said she was in there with our friend Ashley, but we could all see she was alone, and Ashley had already been found. She was looking around the closet, saying, "Where did you go? Why did you bite me?" We helped her out, and she seemed a little freaked out, and asked if maybe it was just a zipper or something from a coat that she might have caught her skin on. And maybe the voices were just the other kids that were close to her. It was really dark in there, but Sarah said she was sure her friend was in there hiding and whispering to her. Then I noticed something on the shelf in the closet close to where Sarah was. It was a clown doll. Only Sarah said she didn't bring her in. We asked around and wondered if someone was playing hide and seek and bringing stuffies in with them, but no one fessed up. We placed the doll on the kitchen table and went back to playing. We played a few more rounds of hide and seek and finally decided we would all go back to the tent and hang out and read some comic books that some of our friends had brought. When we got back to the tent, all the stuffies, though, were scattered around, as if someone had cleared out the tent by throwing them about. Everyone scooped up the stuffies, and we opened the flaps to go in. It was completely empty, except the books, which had been pushed up in one corner, and the clown doll, sitting by itself in the middle of the tent, sitting up, just looking at us. Last year, my family and I were living in a townhouse, and a neighboring couple who lived next door with one of their spouse's mothers would constantly fight, and unfortunately, it would get physical sometimes. In fact, we did have to call the police on the husband several times. Well, they planned on moving, and their 2 daughters took a liking to my daughter and decided to give her one of their dolls. It was an older, blonde Barbie-style doll. Shortly after, my wife took it upstairs and put it away. We were all in the living room, our cat included, and we heard thumping and crashing coming from our daughter's bedroom. I was on shift working from home at the time, so my wife decided to go check it out. She found nothing out of sorts. Nothing appeared to have actually been toppled. No one in our closets, rooms, or bathroom. We thought it was incredibly odd, but didn't think too much of it. This was, of course, only after we had accepted this doll into the house. The crashing occurred again, later, and again. Nothing was there. Later that evening, my wife was in with our infant son upstairs in our bed when she began to hear sobbing and sounds like a baby crying coming from our daughter's room. Our cat laid in the hallway and stared into the room, ears perked. My wife got up, told me about the situation, decided to grab the doll, toss it into the dumpster outside. We never had an issue before or since with that room for the remainder of our stay there.